Douluo Continent 3 Dragon King Legend Fellow. The race struggle between soul beasts and humans, the plain struggle between the abyss and Douluo, is destined to be an era of constant conflict, filled with blood and chaos. Nanyuan, who awakened the memories of his past life, rose up here to suppress countless arrogant individuals of the same era. He was exceptionally talented and climbed onto the throne of the void that no one had ever stepped upon before, breaking free from constraints and completely quelling the chaos in the world. Standing on the throne of the void, his eyes pierced through the endless void, among which only perseverance and firmness remained. His mission was not yet over. All of this will start from the coastal city of Donghai City. There are many talented female protagonists in Shuangwen. Please don't enter if you don't like it. I have the best impression of Tang Wulin for the protagonists in Douluo's 4 parts, and I won't target Tang Wulin. Of course, since they are all fellow characters, the protagonist will definitely cover up Tang Wulin's brilliance. Keywords of the novel: Douluo, Legend of the Dragon King, Void Throne without pop-ups, Douluo, Legend of the Dragon King, Void Throne Complete Collection Download, Douluo, Legend of the Dragon King, Void Throne Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. Start. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Start. 10,000 years have passed since the unification of Douluo Continent by the Sun and Moon Empire and its later renaming as the Sun and Moon Federation. Without internal disputes, the technology of the human world naturally enters a stage of rapid development. The rise of the technology tree has brought about a great leap in the overall strength of humanity. With advanced soul guidance technology, the soul beast tribe can no longer compete with humans. Even the once prosperous starry forest has declined in response to the tide of the times during these 10,000 years. Under the continuous logging by humans, the starry forest has only left less than 1% of its original area. Nevertheless, human beings have never stopped seeking various resources from Douluo Star. With the support of soul-guided technology, humans gradually began to target the ocean. The sea soul beast population living in the nearshore waters has already become very limited in its threat to various powerful warships of humanity. Located on the east coast of the Sun-Moon Federation, Donghai City has rapidly developed over thousands of years thanks to its abundant marine resources, becoming one of the largest cities in the entire eastern region of the Sun-Moon Federation. However, due to its geographical location and natural climate, although the commerce in Donghai City is extremely developed, it has always been located in a corner. The main reason is due to typhoons. Donghai City is adjacent to the seaside and it is common for typhoons to hit it. And this time the typhoon seems to be even more intense than before. The skies seem to have collapsed, with dark and oppressive clouds rolling in the howling wind, and bean-sized rainwater falling with the strong wind. The waves, rendered in the same color by the sky, were crashing against the coast, emitting a deep roar. The coastline feels unstoppable and unable to withstand the impact of the waves. Occasionally, rock masses may slide and be engulfed invisibly by the waves. If it were in ancient times, encountering such a super-large typhoon like a natural disaster, humans could only choose to take refuge and temporarily escape this area. But now it's different from the past. The new generation city of Donghai City, built with advanced soul guidance technology, already has the capital to compete with the power of nature. Amidst the wind and rain, the complex of buildings in the city stands firm. The outer layers of several tall buildings in the center of Donghai City, which exceed 500 meters in height, are even shimmering with a faint bright white light. That is the soul guide shield that covers the entire building. The soul power accumulated from absorbing sunlight is prepared for this time. The top floor of the third building is an independent large flat floor. The area of this large flat floor is at least 500 square meters away, and many places are built with some kind of transparent special material, like transparent blue crystals. An old man who looked more than 60 years old was sitting quietly in the spacious study. Outside the crystal French window behind him, it was windy and rainy, and the interior of the study was warm and comfortable. Separated by a window, it feels like two completely different worlds. The old man has a moderate physique, looks unremarkable, has gray hair, wears glasses, and has a somewhat scholarly aura. But his eyes were extremely bright and calm, without the kind of aloof scrutiny, more like a calm demeanor after experiencing many things. All kinds of signs indicate the unusual identity of the elderly. In fact, as the dean of Donghai College, Yu Zhen almost holds a position no lower than that of the governor of Donghai City. Donghai College has intermediate and advanced college qualifications, although it can only rank in the middle and lower reaches of the entire mainland. It has also taught many excellent students in recent years. Some of these students choose to continue their studies at other advanced colleges, while others choose to join the military or enter politics. After decades of accumulation, the network is extremely amazing. However, Yu Zhen usually appears very low-key and never shows any signs of leakage. It was not until a recent incident at the high-level authorities in Donghai City realized how terrifying the network of connections this dean of Donghai College possessed. Not long ago, Yu Zhen's only grandson suddenly fell into a coma without warning. In just a few days, several top healing soul masters rushed from various parts of the mainland to Donghai City. It even includes 3 healing soul masters with soul holy cultivation levels or above. It is not an exaggeration to say that this level of healing soul master will receive absolute treatment anywhere on the continent. Even top powers like the Tower of Spirits and Shrek Academy, which transcend the rules of the Sun-Moon Federation, are eager for such talents. After the treatment of these healing soul masters, Yu Zhen's only grandson's condition stabilized before the typhoon landed. This is also something that makes Yu Zhen feel exceptionally fortunate. Just as he had just breathed a sigh of relief, a figure silently appeared in the study where he was located. With his rich experience and calm demeanor, Yu Zhen remained calm at this moment. Sitting behind the quaint and elegant rosewood desk, he looked up at the middle-aged man standing in front of him. Middle-aged people have a slender figure, without particularly strong muscles. They have a handsome appearance and highly angular facial lines. He was dressed in a snow-white military uniform, straight and without wrinkles, which further highlighted his cold and calm temperament. On the shoulders of middle-aged people, they each carry a general star. Major General. His gaze fell on the middle-aged man's shoulder, and the expression on Yu Zhen's face finally changed. You. Although the Federation of Sun and Moon never restricts ordinary people from joining the military, there is no doubt that soul masters have innate advantages over ordinary people. And officers above the rank of Major General in the Sun-Moon Federation are all powerful soul masters. At least he also has a cultivation level of Douluo or above, and is highly likely to be the most powerful Do armor master among soul masters. Yu Zhen's eyebrows couldn't help but furrow slightly, and he thought of something, with a faint feeling of heaviness in his heart. Observing the changes in Yu Zhen's expression, the middle-aged man involuntarily clenched his fists, revealing a hint of shame and sorrow deep in his eyes. After a moment of contemplation, he straightened his waist, suppressed his emotions, and solemnly saluted Yu Zhen. Long Tianwu, the deputy commander of the Blood God Legion. After finishing these, Long Tianwu took out 2 blood-red documents from his arms. Under the soft soul guiding light, the bright blood red was so dazzling. On the first page of the document, the owner's information is written. Yu Heng, Chief of Staff of the Blood God Legion Headquarters. Staff Officer of the Blood God Legion, Nanxi. This is not just a document to prove identity, but also means that the owner of the document has died in the line of duty. The pouring rain outside the window continued, mixed with lightning and thunder. Yu Zhen sat on the chair in a daze, his eyes dim and his pupils dilated, as if he had aged a lot in an instant. He lowered his head and murmured aimlessly to himself. The Blood God Legion. Long Tianwu took a deep breath, his expression sorrowful as if bathing in endless glory. Yu Lao, due to the special and top-secret nature of the Blood God Legion, Yu Heng and Nanxi cannot disclose any information about the Blood God Legion to you. But I must tell you that everything they have done over the years is for all the creatures on Douluo continent, and no one can erase their contributions to the continent and even Douluo star. Yuzhen slowly lifted his head and glanced through the door of the study towards the room to the south. His eyes regained some radiance and warmth, and his voice was calm, but it clearly had a hint of desolation. If possible, tell me about his relationship with Xiaoxi. Yuzhen's calm reaction caught Long Tianwu off guard, as if he had known something beforehand. However, despite his already guilty heart, he didn't ask much. He only recounted some of the experiences of Yu Heng and Nan Shi in the Blood God Legion, as well as how they ultimately sacrificed themselves in the battle against the Abyss. After all, from the beginning, Long Tianwu was prepared to confess to Yuzhen. As a father who has lost his son and daughter. In law, Yuzhen is qualified to know these things no matter what. This is his only insistence on breaking the top-secret rules of the Blood God Legion. Of course, Long Tianwu's behavior was unanimously accepted by the senior management of the Blood God Legion. I don't know how long it has been, but Long Tianwu's figure disappeared again, as if it had never appeared before. And Yuzhen had already arrived in the master bedroom to the south of the large flat floor. The decoration in the room is not too luxurious, but every material used is of extraordinary quality. Even the curtains are woven from the silk of century-old ice silkworms. This material was extremely rare in the era when soul beasts were almost extinct. Thanks to the fact that the ice silkworm tribe lived in the human forbidden zone of the far north, the population has been able to continue to this day. Long Tianwu's own martial soul perfectly matches the attributes of ice silk, because the soul power fluctuations left by him when he leaves, and the soft bright white curtains emit a faint fluorescence, like a starry sky. Yuzhen slowly withdrew his gaze and looked softly at a little boy lying in bed in a coma. In fact, he had already speculated about what his son and daughter. In law had done, starting from when they handed over the newly born Nanyuan to him. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Nanyuan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Nanyuan. Long Tianwu himself is a powerful warrior at the Douluo level, and also a powerful 3-character Do armor master. Out of guilt and friendship towards his former comrades, he deliberately used his original soul power to nourish the sea of body and spirit for Nanyuan. The martial soul of Dragon Tianwu has the same attributes as Ice Silkworm, and it is an extremely pure ice attribute martial soul. With his control over the Douluo realm and the willingness to expend the essence of his martial soul, he can effectively cultivate and refine the body and spiritual sea of soul masters. Thanks to these, Nanyuan's suffering has been greatly relieved. The pain he endured did not come from his body, but from within the sea of spirit. Just like two souls forcibly merging, his spiritual sea was filled with some unfamiliar and fragmented memory fragments out of thin air. He has not yet awakened his martial soul, and the sea of spirit is already fragile. The integration of these memory fragments almost completely shattered him. If it weren't for the help of those top healing soul masters, he might have already died. It is also for this reason that Nanyuan has been unconscious for so long. However, while he was unconscious, he could vaguely hear some conversations. The typhoon that swept through Donghai city lasted for a full week. This typhoon not only came very suddenly, but also on a much larger scale than before, having a huge impact on the entire city. Many big trees on the streets have been uprooted, various shops can no longer operate, and transportation in the city has briefly been paralyzed. Fortunately, everything has passed. At the end of the typhoon, various departments of the Donghai city administration began to be busy, leading the repair work in various places and maintaining order. After the typhoon, the air in Donghai city appeared particularly fresh, with sunlight falling on the earth again and the blue sky covering thousands of miles. Looking into the distance, one can occasionally see the colorful light of a rainbow in the sky. Nanyuan, who had been unconscious for nearly half a month, slowly opened his eyes and sat up in confusion. The mirror embedded on the wall at the foot of the bed reflects a slightly pale face. A few strands of silver short hair hang down on the eyelids, with slightly curled ends. The sunlight shines on the rare bright silver hair color, scattering countless halos. And against the bright silver short hair stood a pair of golden eyes, clear and luxurious like golden crystals. Exquisite facial features are flawless, just like the most perfect artwork, with a fragile feeling like glass. If there were someone of the opposite sex here, he would probably instantly ignite a maternal radiance in his heart, and couldn't help but hold him in his arms and cherish him. Nanyuan lifted his head and looked at himself in the mirror. The memories in his mind gradually revived, and the confusion in his eyes quickly faded away. It's not an illusion. Nanyuan murmured to himself in his heart. His feelings were not wrong, he had another memory in his mind that belonged to his past life. Click. At this moment, a soft noise came. Immediately after, there was a slightly hurried sound of footsteps. Yuzhen quickly stepped forward to the bedside and saw that Nanyuan had finally awakened, and his suspended heart finally came to rest. Nanyuan's recovery speed was even faster than he expected. However, he did not forget to carefully use his soul power to investigate the situation inside Nanyuan's body. Nanyuan, how are you feeling now? Is there anything else that's uncomfortable, especially? When speaking of the last sentence, Yuzhen seemed hesitant as he was afraid of making Nanyuan recall the pain that had penetrated deep into his soul. Grandpa, I'm fine, Nanyuan instinctively called out as he looked at Yumi with such a concerned expression, without any feeling of unfamiliarity. Although there is a fusion of two souls, he is still him. For him, compared to the previous life of Zhuang Zumengdi, the experience of this life is actually more realistic. It's like being a bystander's perspective, knowing some things from past life memories. Since the beginning of his memory, Nanyuan has never had any impression of his parents. It was Yuzhen who raised him from a young age. Perhaps it is because there is a soul from another world residing in the sea of spirit, and he was born with early wisdom. In order not to make Yuzhen worry, he has always shown an optimistic side since childhood, with a smile on his face and never mentioning anything about his parents. At this moment, Nanyuan habitually revealed the perfect and false smile that had been rehearsed countless times to Yuzhen. Yuzhen doted and touched Nanyuan's head, feeling both relieved and heartbroken for the sensible Nanyuan, but he did not show any abnormality. He understood from beginning to end that he only deliberately maintained a tacit understanding with Nanyuan to some extent. And regarding the matter of Nanyuan's parents, he also decided to temporarily conceal it. After confirming that Nanyuan had fully recovered, Yuzhen smiled and handed him a state-of-the-art soul guide communicator. This soul guide communicator looks like a small black metal box, but it is very lightweight to handle. Sensing the temperature in Nanyuan's hand, the screen of the soul guide communicator instantly completed automatic unlocking, emitting a light blue light. When you were unconscious before, Xiaoyan was very worried about you. It was because of the sudden arrival of the typhoon that I didn't let her come. Let's give her a call first. Xiao Yan. The overlap of the two memories made Nanyuan once again dazed, and a strange light appeared in his clear and golden eyes. The full name of Xiaoyan in Yuzhen's mouth is Su Xiaoyan. The Yu and Su families are close friends, and the deep friendship between the two sides has been formed since the generation of Yuzhen and Su Xiaoyan's grandfather. Nanyuan was also a childhood sweetheart who grew up with Su Xiaoyan. Su Xiaoyan's parents have given him various warmth and care since childhood. And in his past life memories, there are also some things about Su Xiaoyan. Amidst the swirling thoughts, the soul guide communicator in hand had already dialed a number. Nanyuan restrained his mind and said softly, "Hello, Xiao Yan." On the other side of the soul guide communicator, after a brief silence, a timid female voice quickly rang out. The voice clearly contained a hint of joy and excitement. Nanyuan, are you awake? Nanyuan smiled and nodded, recalling the look of Su Xiaoyan in his mind. A delicate, beautiful and somewhat timid little girl, but occasionally reveals a hint of ancient spirit in front of familiar people. There seemed to be other people around Su Xiaoyan, and his voice became noisy. Nanyuan is very familiar with this, and it is the voices of Su Xiaoyan's parents and his brother Su Xiaoyu. Not long after, a calm male voice came from the soul guide communicator. Nanyuan, I'm relieved to know you've woken up. How are you feeling now? We'll come over right away. Uncle Su, I'm doing well now, Nanyuan responded with a smile, then handed over the soul guide communicator to Yuzhen again. Grandpa, come and talk to Uncle Su and his team. Xing Wei, you are now the chief financial officer of Donghai City. Don't delay the main business. Yuzhen's tone was serious yet approachable, completely a warning from the elders to be close to his nephew. Xiaoyan should have reached the age to awaken his martial soul recently. Your family's martial soul is special, and to successfully complete the awakening, it requires some preparation work. You should finish these things first. Uncle Yu. Su Xingwei wanted to say something more, but was interrupted by Yu Ai's smile. Don't worry, Nanyuan's body is no longer in any serious condition. I will take him to the transmission tower for old Ji to check again, and also complete the awakening of his martial soul. Listening to the conversation between Yuzhen and Su Xingwei, Nanyuan silently looked at his own hands. Martial soul. This is the special force on the Douluo continent. Martial soul can use anything, and if awakened with innate soul power, one can cultivate and become the most prestigious profession, soul master. Nanyuan began to have expectations for his martial soul. The new book is released and will be updated every day at 12 noon thereafter. Light a bookmark and vote for a recommendation. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Donghai Transmission Tower. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 4. Martial Soul Awakening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Martial Soul Awakening. Looking at the entire Federation of Sun and Moon, Donghai City is also a well-known big city. The Chuanling Pagoda in Donghai City is one of the 18 towers of the Chuanling Pagoda organization. These 18 large transmission towers are also known as the 18 Heavenly Pillars. The transmission tower in Donghai City has over 100 floors and a height of over 400 meters. Even within the towering Donghai City, it is a landmark building. The base of the transmission tower is presented in an octagonal shape, covering an extremely wide area. Every 10 layers up, it will contract inward all the way to the top of the tower. A sub-tower has such a scale, and one can imagine how magnificent the headquarters of the transmission tower, known as the Heavenly Spirit Tower, located in Shrek City will be. Today's spiritual pagoda appears somewhat empty, as it has been the annual Martial Soul Awakening Day recently. The spiritual masters of the spiritual pagoda will go to Donghai City and surrounding towns to preside over the awakening of martial souls. Normally, few people would come to the spirit pagoda to complete the awakening of their martial soul. After all, the children of the soul master family have mastered the method of awakening martial souls within the family. And ordinary families also do not have the financial resources and connections to hire top spiritual masters who sit in the transmission tower to awaken their children's martial souls alone. If it weren't for the sake of safety and to once again determine the situation of the Spirit Sea for Nanyuan, I wouldn't have specifically brought Nanyuan to the East China Sea Spirit Pagoda. On the top platform of the steps of the Pagoda of Spiritual Transmission, a tall old man stands with his hand down. Judging from his appearance, the old man was younger than Yuzhen, dressed in a simple gray robe, with his black long hair meticulously combed and scattered behind him. The old man just stood there quietly, but with a momentum that remained motionless like a mountain. A pair of deep purple eyes are particularly deep and captivating. Nanyuan followed Yuzhen and walked out of the soul guidance car, politely greeting the old man. Grandpa Ji. The identity and status of the old man are only higher and not lower than that of Yuzhen, and he is the tower owner of the East China Sea Spirit Pagoda, Ji Hongyu. Ji Hongyu and Yuzhen got to know each other during their youth, and their relationship was unbreakable. Because they all came from Donghai City and chose to stay there after completing their cultivation. Ji Hongyu smiled slightly and his gaze fell on Nanyuan. Then, his eyebrows furrowed slightly and he let out a soft sigh. At the moment when Nanyuan and Ji Hongyu's eyes met, their thinking unexpectedly stagnated uncontrollably. After a while, Ming was restored. Lao Ji, is there anything wrong? Seeing Ji Hongyu's expression, Yuzhen's heart hung up again. Although he has the cultivation level of Soul Emperor, he himself is not good at spiritual abilities, so it is not entirely certain whether the spiritual sea with cracks in the Yunnan abyss has been fully restored. Ji Hongyu's face returned to normal and he smiled lightly, waving his hand. No, Lao Yu, you misunderstood. I can be certain that there is no problem with Nanyuan's spiritual sea, but rather that he has benefited from misfortune this time. He has not yet awakened his martial soul, but the spiritual sea is more stable than some soul masters with soul masters' cultivation. If my feelings are not wrong, Nanyuan's spiritual power is far stronger than his peers. At this point, Ji Hongyu sighed softly with emotion and said, the mysteries of the human body are truly endless, especially the mysteries of the spiritual sea that we have not yet fully explored. However, it is also his own luck that Nanyuan can benefit from misfortune. Ji Hongyu and Yuzhen both have a relatively calm temperament and do not have the classic way of arguing when they meet. Decades have passed, and the two have not yet blushed. This is also their usual way of getting along. Upon hearing Ji Hongyu's words, I no longer had any doubts. I helped the golden-framed glasses on the bridge of my nose and smiled calmly. I'll leave it to you to handle the awakening of Nanyuan's martial soul. Nanyuan, come with me. Ji Hongyu naturally couldn't resist and personally led Nanyuan towards the depths of the transmission tower. Nanyuan had heard about the ability of Ji Hongyu's martial soul from Yuzhen a long time ago and did not feel too surprised. He silently followed behind Ji Hongyu, pondering in his heart. Martial souls with spiritual attributes. And it seems that Grandpa Ji's cultivation is much stronger than Grandpa's. Entering the first floor of the pagoda, the first thing that catches the eye is the magnificent interior decoration. The ground is entirely paved with dark golden stone, with brilliant natural textures on it. Giant stone pillars support the dome, which can reach tens of meters high. What is even more admirable are the magnificent and splendid murals on the stone pillars and dome. These murals are magnificent, with scenery and characters. It records the iconic events that occurred in the past history of Douluo continent. The most eye-catching among them is the story of the first generation of the Spirit Tower Master Ling Bing Douluo leading human soul masters to fight against the tide of soul beasts. Although it's not the first time Nanyuan has come to the Donghai Pagoda, he still feels a bit shocked. In the hall on the first floor of the transmission tower, there are also some wonderful and magnificent patterns engraved, giving a dazzling feeling. Although there are many awakening rooms inside the spiritual pagoda, in reality, completing the martial soul awakening effect here is the best. With the assistance of these arrays, soul masters who awaken their martial souls can have a deeper understanding of their own martial souls. However, not everyone has such an opportunity, let alone being personally presided over by Ji Hongyu, the owner of the East China Sea Spirit Pagoda, to awaken the martial soul. As the only grandson of Yuzhen, the dean of Donghai College, Nanyuan has had the opportunity to interact with platforms on these things since childhood. Without the need for Ji Hongyu's reminder, he calmly stood in the center of the formation. Yuzhen took a few steps back and focused his gaze on Nanyuan. Ji Hongyu reminded Nanyuan, Grandpa Ji is about to start now. As soon as Ji Hongyu finished speaking, a dazzling golden light shone from the center of his eyebrows, and then turned into a strange golden vertical pupil. At the same time, a faint purple halo rippled from his body surface. Behind him emerged a huge black-purple ape with a height of over 10 meters, a strange ape with 3 pupils. Three-eyed demon ape, a top-level beast martial soul with both dark and spiritual attributes. There is no high threshold for awakening martial souls for children of appropriate age, but being led by a powerful spiritual soul master like Ji Hongyu definitely has a certain positive blessing. At least it can minimize the risk of awakening the martial soul. With the injection of Ji Hongyu's soul power, brilliant patterns lit up in the hall, starting from the ceiling and descending along the wall. Just like being endowed with vitality, it extends all the way to the feet of Nanyuan. All the light eventually converged into a single point at his feet. Before carefully feeling this strange feeling, Nanyuan's consciousness had already become blurred. Being completely deprived of the five senses is like being in an illusory space, or falling into an endless abyss. Countless lights and shadows passed before his eyes, but he could see nothing. Suddenly, a crisp sound resembling a chain sliding entered the space, and he suddenly opened his eyes. Here, he is completely naked, with countless divine silver chains entwined around his body. At this moment, Nanyuan's consciousness returned to the real world, and the sound of the chains sliding became clearer. His gaze returned, and he saw a dazzling silver light shining on the palm of his right hand that he had lifted. A silver chain engraved with strange patterns filled the hall. The length of this chain seems immeasurable, with many segments drilling into the void and constantly shuttling back and forth. Unlike conventional chains, this silver chain has a wedge at the front that resembles a gun tip. The wedge with a sharp aura pierced through the void and reappeared, moving slowly in the air. This is my martial soul. Nanyuan's gaze narrowed slightly, and the expressions on Yuzhen and Ji Hongyu's faces were completely frozen. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Void Chain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Void Chain. Rao couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise based on Ji Hongyu's nature and observations. The mutated martial soul of spatial attributes. He has known Yuzhen since childhood and is extremely familiar with the silver chain martial soul inherited by the Yu family. The silver chain martial soul itself does not possess any special attributes, while the Haotian hammer, which is also a top-level weapon martial soul, possesses almost ultimate power attributes. It is precisely for this reason that in terms of martial soul quality, the silver pattern chain is always inferior to the Haotian hammer. However, the mutated martial soul awakened by Nanyuan completely broke the norm. His martial soul is obviously the result of benign mutation, adding a mysterious and unpredictable spatial attribute to the original silver chain. Perhaps among all the weapons and souls possessed by soul masters on the entire continent and even on Douluo star, there is no more powerful existence than it. Ji Hongyu's judgment is naturally based on evidence. The fact that Nanyuan's martial soul was able to shuttle through space when it first awakened is enough to explain everything. From ancient times to modern times, there have also been some martial souls with spatial attributes in the soul master realm. Among all the martial souls with attributes, the spatial attribute martial soul is the most mysterious and versatile, with almost no shortcomings, and will not be restrained by other attribute martial souls. Ji Hongyu, as the owner of the East China Sea Spirit Pagoda, once learned some secrets at the headquarters of the Spirit Pagoda. The martial soul of the one in the Sea God Pavilion of Shrek Academy seems to be a mutated martial soul with spatial attributes. That person once broke into Mingdu alone, and with one shot, the entire space above Mingdu was almost torn apart. If it weren't for that one who had some reservations, the only super-large city on the Douluo continent would probably have been swallowed up by the collapsed space. However, even so, the one who had just awakened his martial soul had never heard of his soul being able to shuttle through the void. Yuzhen, who has always been calm and elegant, was also deeply shocked, but compared to Ji Hongyu, he felt more excited. Nanyuan, you really brought a huge surprise to Grandpa. Nanyuan was still immersed in a wonderful feeling. This silver chain is like a part of his body, commanded by him like an arm. However, every time he penetrates the void, it will consume his soul power. Although the consumption of soul power is not significant each time, the frequency of one's own martial soul shuttling through space is too high. After all, many segments of this chain are hidden in the void. The feeling of weakness caused by excessive consumption of soul power made Nanyuan quickly withdraw his martial soul and lift his head to meet Yuzhan's pleased gaze. "Grandpa, my martial soul is called the Void Chain. As Grandpa Ji said, it should be an innate ability with spatial attributes." Okay. Yuzhan walked forward with great strides, lowered his right hand, and rubbed Nanyuan's head. Immediately, with a proud smile, he said to Ji Hongyu beside him. "Lao Ji, help Nanyuan test his innate soul power." "No need to test, Nanyuan's situation must be full of soul power." "Lao Yu, don't you know?" Ji Hongyu didn't know his old friend's mind and shook his head with a smile. "Although our Donghai city is far from the center of the mainland and the overall strength of soul masters is relatively weak, there have been soul masters with innate full soul power in Donghai city in recent years. However, these people's breath is far less thick than that of Nanyuan. And I just carefully felt that Nanyuan's spiritual power has also reached the spiritual realm." "Lao Ji, are you sure?" The little bit of boastful caution in my heart was exposed by Ji Hongyu, and I just smiled without saying a word. But when he heard Ji Hongyu say that Nanyuan's spiritual realm had reached the spiritual realm, his pupils suddenly contracted. The spiritual realm, from low to high, is divided into 6 levels. Lingyuan realm, Lingtong realm, Linghai realm, Lingyuan realm, Lingyu realm, and the legendary Xinyuan realm. Lingyuan realm, the beginning of one element, and the renewal of all phenomena. From birth, everyone possesses the spiritual power of the spiritual realm, which is also the most fundamental spiritual power. The spiritual power of Lingyuan realm is finely divided into 4 stages. Initial, intermediate, advanced, and peak. At the initial stage of the Lingyuan realm, the spiritual power is only enough to carry the lowest level of white 10-year souls. It is only in the middle stage of the Lingyuan realm that there is a possibility of successfully integrating yellow centenary souls. Of course, you can also choose to merge 2 white 10-year spirits. The spiritual realm is the state of mind and spirit communication, where the mind reaches its intended meaning. Upon reaching the spiritual realm, controlling one's spiritual power is considered an entry point. The true control of one's own spiritual power is for one's own use, capable of carrying 2 yellow centenary spirits or 1 purple millennium soul. The spiritual realm of Nanyuan has reached the spiritual realm, which means that as long as his physical strength is sufficient, he can even directly integrate a millennium-old soul. Not to mention the talent in martial soul cultivation, Nanyuan's talent in spiritual power alone is enough to be considered shocking. Unless one possesses a special spiritual power cultivation method, the spiritual power of a soul master increases on its own with the improvement of one's own cultivation level. Just like innate soul power, the higher the initial spiritual power intensity when awakening the martial soul, the faster the subsequent spiritual power improvement, and the easier it is to reach the later stages, truly possessing the potential to become a top-level powerhouse. Yuzhan's spiritual realm is only at the 3rd level of the spiritual sea realm, while Ji Hongyu has already stepped into the threshold of the spiritual abyss realm. Ji Hongyu shifted his gaze away from Nanyuan and met Yuzhan's 4 eyes. He said in a somewhat speechless tone, "Old Yu, didn't you realize that Nanyuan just controlled the space of his martial soul to shuttle through? Did he use his spiritual power to lock it in?" Yuzhan's expression was slightly stunned, and his emotions quickly returned to calmness. As the saying goes, caring leads to chaos. It is difficult for Nanyuan to maintain true composure. The outward release of spiritual power is the most obvious characteristic of reaching the spiritual realm of spiritual communication. Previously, Nanyuan was able to control his martial soul void chain to shuttle through a space with a diameter of 50 meters, indicating that it was not just about entering the spiritual realm for the first time. However, the person who felt the most excited at this moment was still Nanyuan himself. Even if he had memories of his past life and was born with early wisdom, his heart was somewhat uneasy today. But the goddess of luck once again favored him, giving him a stunning talent to overlook his peers. Nanyuan clenched his fists tightly, his mouth curved slightly, and his eyes were filled with a desire and determination for strength. The smile on his delicate face seemed to have added a touch of unique infectiousness, no longer as false and hollow as before. Ji Hongyu nodded at Yuzhen and gestured, "I have already arranged it." Afterwards, let Nanyuan carefully test his mental and physical strength. With Nanyuan's talent, we naturally need to find a soul with the best quality and compatibility for him. This is the advantage of innate soul power. As soon as the martial soul awakens, it can immediately merge soul spirits or absorb soul rings to advance into a soul master. And with the financial resources held by Yuzhen, the dean of Donghai College, it is also sufficient to provide support to Nanyuan. I don't have a strong appetite for it anymore. I have already sent out today's chapter in advance, and it will be updated at noon in the future. If you like it, click on your favorites and vote for recommendations. The signing status has been changed. Those who have monthly tickets can come with them. Of course, if you want to give some gold coins to Rat doesn't mind pinching them. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Selecting Spirits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Selecting Spirit. Secrets related to soul masters and martial souls have always been taboo, and when awakening martial souls, only trustworthy people are present. From the fact that I did not hesitate at all and let Ji Hongyu awaken his martial soul for Nanyuan, it is enough to see the depth of their friendship. Ji Hongyu was also aware of these taboos and withdrew the staff from the first floor lobby early this morning. Although he is nominally the person who transmits the spirit tower, he is also an elder of Nanyuan, and both emotions and reason should not allow the secret of Nanyuan's martial soul to be leaked. It has been proven that some of the preparations he made in advance did indeed have an impact. If there were other staff members of the spiritual tower present, the information about Nanyuan would probably have been transmitted to the headquarters of the spiritual tower long ago. The talent displayed by Nanyuan is definitely worth the attention of the transmission tower. At this moment, within the hall of the first floor of the East China Sea Spirit Pagoda, there were only 3 people, Nanyuan, who appeared particularly spacious. There are many soul-guided elevators built deep in the hall, and Ji Hongyu directly took Yuzhen and Nanyuan's grandson to the only red elevator among them. This is the exclusive elevator for the upper floors inside the Tower of Spirits, and only by taking this elevator can one climb to the top floor of the East China Sea Tower of Spirits. The height of the Donghai Spirit Pagoda exceeds 400 meters, and it took a full minute to reach the top floor by taking the elevator. The elevator door opens, leading directly to a spacious room. In front of the room is a transparent glass wall. Looking up, one can almost have a panoramic view of the entire Donghai city, with clear visibility of misty clouds in the sky. This is the private office of Ji Hongyu, the owner of the East China Sea Spirit Pagoda. It is usually only used to receive VIPs or high-level visitors from the headquarters of the Spirit Pagoda. The overall layout of the room is very simple, but it exudes a strong sense of technology, with various state-of-the-art instruments placed in the corners. The most prominent among them are the 3 huge LCD screens hanging from the ceiling. As soon as Nanyuan walked into the room, a soft white light fell on him on its own. A slight buzzing sound sounded, and numbers quickly began to jump on these 3 LCD screens. Nanyuan was pondering some things and noticed these anomalies. Subconsciously, he lifted his head and looked at the LCD screen above his head. The values on the LCD screen started to jump quickly, but as time passed, they gradually stabilized. Ji Hongyu and Yuzhen, who were also paying attention to the situation here, couldn't help but change their expressions again. Except for the most basic height, weight, and age data, all the data of Nanyuan is far stronger than that of a soul master of the same age who has just awakened his martial soul. Especially in terms of physical resilience and mental strength values. The physical resilience is at level 24, and the mental strength value is 284. Ji Hongyu read out these two data from Nanyuan with a slightly stunned expression. Level 24 physical resilience means that Nanyuan's physical fitness and strength are comparable to those of the two-ring soul master, and he is a powerful two-ring soul master with beast martial souls. However, Nanyuan himself was born with full soul power, and although his physical strength was somewhat astonishing, it did not exceed his cognition. He only assumed that Yuzhen had given Nanyuan some heavenly and earthly treasures that could enhance his physical fitness. Donghai City is adjacent to the sea, and the whale glue produced by magical whale soul beasts living in the deep sea can achieve this effect. However, Yuzhen was well aware that this was mostly the result of Long Tianwu using his original soul power to refine Nanyuan's body. In this era, whale glue, a natural treasure, is not easily obtainable. Moreover, what Nanyuan possesses is a weapon and martial soul, and even his innate full soul power cannot bring such a significant increase in physical strength. What surprised both Yuzhen and Ji Hongyu was the spiritual strength of Nanyuan. The spiritual power of Lingyuan realm ranges from 1 to 100. The value of spiritual power in Lingtong realm ranges from 100 to 500. That is to say, Nanyuan's spiritual realm has reached the intermediate level of the spiritual realm, and the Sea of Spirit is capable of carrying souls with cultivation for no more than 3,000 years. Of course, the premise is that Nanyuan's body can withstand the energy impact brought by the 1,000-year soul. After a long silence, Yuzhen suddenly calmed down. He slowly withdrew his gaze and then looked sideways at Nanyuan, who had not shown much emotional fluctuation around him, with a somewhat dazed gaze. He saw the shadow of his son's past from Nanyuan. Nanyuan's father, Yu Heng, was exceptionally talented from a young age and was undoubtedly the first among the younger generation in Donghai City. He left Donghai City during his youth and entered the Sun and Moon Royal Soul Master Academy for further studies. You should know that only this Royal Soul Master Academy, which also has tens of thousands of years of heritage, can compare to Shrek Academy in this world. At this moment, Yuzhen felt a sharp pain in his heart, and the joyful and comforting emotions also diluted a lot. On the one hand, he does not want Nanyuan to become ordinary, but he also does not want Nanyuan to be too excellent. As the saying goes, the stronger the ability, the greater the responsibility. One such tragedy is enough. Feeling Yuzhen's gaze, Nanyuan looked at him with some confusion. "What's wrong, Grandpa?" "Nanyuan, it's nothing. It's just that you brought too many surprises to Grandpa today. Grandpa is so happy." Yuzhen smiled slightly as usual. "All right, let your Grandpa Ji choose the soul that best suits you next." Ji Hongyu could clearly feel the strong spiritual fluctuations of Yuzhen, and took a deep look at his old friend, burying these questions in his heart. Immediately, he also sighed with a smile as he diverted the topic. "Nanyuan, if that girl Zixin had such great talent as you, my performance would not be much better than your grandfather's." "Sister Zixin." Ji Hongyu's words instantly recalled some memories in Nanyuan's mind. Zixin, whose full name is Ouyang Zixin, is the only granddaughter of Ji Hongyu. Due to the relationship between Ji Hongyu and Ui, Ouyang Zixin often helped Ui take care of him when he was young. In his past life memories, Ouyang Zixin was also Tang Wulin's dream goddess. Not to mention that, there are some things that cannot be forced. Ji Hongyu smiled heartily, but he was quite open-minded. Effort is indeed useful, but it is not worth mentioning in the face of absolute talent. He has personally experienced the cruelty of this world, and the gap between people is so great. True geniuses enjoy endless glory from the beginning, and these people spend their entire lives only striving to pursue that light. "Come and sit down." Ji Hongyu and Yuzhen exchanged a glance, and in between words, Nanyuan sat down on the soft black leather sofa. Looking up here, you can easily see the 3 huge soul guidance screens. Ji Hongyu took out a metal box with a button from the storage ring, pressed the button, and the 3 soul guide screens appeared in different images. The images on these 3 soul guide screens are exactly 3 different types of soul information. Ji Hongyu, through his own authority, specifically selected spirits from the souls stored in the East China Sea transmission tower that matched the attributes and ages of Nanyuan. A 100-year soul, a thorny dragon, with a cultivation of 800 years. A 100-year soul void insect, cultivated for 600 years. Centennial soul human face magic spider, a rare mutated individual that has lost its own poison, but possesses the ability of spatial attributes, with a cultivation period of 400 years. In order to prevent the fire from waiting for a long time, let's start with the first chapter and the second chapter at 12 noon. It will be changed to be sent at noon in the future. Quick collection, investment, recommended tickets, monthly tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Silver Wings Breaking the Void Snake. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 8. Has never had such a wonderful start before. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 has never had such a wonderful start before. The instinctive reactions of soul beasts are extremely sensitive, and the chaotic spatial fluctuations in the sky make them feel extremely uneasy. However, this kind of pressure came and went quickly, and the silver-winged breaking void snake that descended here seemed to have a strong purpose, rushing directly into the depths of the forest. Ji Hongyu frowned slightly and vaguely sensed the intention of the silver-winged snake to break through the void. However, he didn't pay much attention and continued to say in a deep voice, "Since ancient times, not all souls preserved in our spiritual towers can be absorbed by human soul masters. The vast majority of these souls that cannot be absorbed by soul masters are rebellious and unwilling to become vassals of human soul masters due to their noble bloodline. Once soul masters forcibly absorb them, they may even face life-threatening situations. These souls are also known as indomitable souls. Relatively speaking, this silver-wing breaking void snake may have weaker cultivation among those indomitable souls, but its own race is incredibly powerful. You should be able to feel it firsthand soon." Ji Hongyu finally captured the shape of this silver-winged broken virtual snake through the equipment inside the beginner-level spiritual platform. As the name suggests, the silver-winged broken void snake is in the shape of a snake. It has a slender body, with a length of about 5 meters, and is covered with fine silver scales throughout its body. The snake's head is presented as a broad triangle, with a pair of dark and vivid pupils that sparkle with a eerie light. Its entire body exudes a majestic and mysterious aura. The most miraculous thing is that behind it, there is a pair of huge transparent silver wings of light. The length of the light wings stretched out also exceeded 3 meters, and the silver light shining on the edge of the light wings was particularly brilliant. The sharp atmosphere was restrained, as if cutting open the space. Another thing that possesses this texture is its snake tail. The tail of this silver-winged broken virtual snake is different from that of ordinary snake soul beasts. It is not covered with scales, but more like a diamond-shaped silver crystal resembling a spear tip. The tip is slender, flexible and powerful, drawing beautiful curves in the air. There is no need to doubt its terrifying killing power. Sitting on the sofa, observing the movement of the silver-wing breaking virtual snake on the soul guide screen, Nanyuan's eyes were scorching, and he involuntarily clenched his fists. He believes that he has made a decision. In the beginner-level spiritual platform, one can feel the breath of the silver-wing breaking void snake, and almost all soul beasts are afraid to avoid it. But at this moment, a deep roar suddenly echoed deep into the forest, and rolling sound waves surged into the clouds. The silver-winged broken void snake stopped its form in the air, and a pair of cold black vertical pupils stared indifferently at the forest ahead. Its body only flickers, and it has already descended. The silver light containing the power of terrifying space-cutting burst out from the pair of light wings behind it, causing countless thick trees to fracture at the same root, and the incision was as smooth as a mirror. The tree trunk fell to the ground, emitting a series of violent roars. The forest, which was originally densely packed with branches and leaves, has been flattened out into an open area. Scare. The silver-winged snake raised its head high and let out a sharp hissing sound, which seemed to contain a warning and provocation. Across from the silver-winged broken void snake, a majestic figure also emerged from the shadows. Upon seeing it, apart from Ji Hongyu, who had already speculated beforehand, both Yu Nanyuan and Yu Xinye and his grandson looked surprised. The tall figure exceeded 3 meters, covered in dark golden hair all over, and a pair of equally dark golden eyes were filled with cruel and indifferent colors. Its arms are exceptionally large and robust, with dark golden blades extending over a meter in length at the tips of its 2 front paws. The sharp claws simply swipe through the air with its movement, even making a slight hissing sound. The target of this silver wing-breaking void snake is this dark gold terror claw bear. No, its purpose is to leave this junior ascension platform. Yu Zhen, who knew some of the secrets inside the spirit pagoda, immediately realized. He knew that indomitable spirits like the silver wing-breaking void snake would be placed in the ascension platform by the spirit transmission tower in order to save the cost of storing them. This is also to make the ascension platform more perfect and authentic. But he had never heard of any other indomitable soul that could sense the weakest area of the ascension platform like the silver wing-breaking void snake in front of him, and try to escape. This spiritual and perceptual ability is truly terrifying. Usually, in the ascension platform, the areas where the junior ascension platform and the intermediate ascension platform intersect are the most prone to problems. In order to prevent soul masters from accidentally entering higher level spiritual platforms, the transmission tower will set up some particularly powerful soul beasts at these intersections to monitor and guard. This dark gold claw bear has at least 500 years of cultivation, and theoretically, any soul master below the 4 rings cultivation level cannot kill it. And it is the guardian of the junior ascension platform here. Roar! 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 Under the provocation of the silver-winged breaking void snake, the roaring sound of the dark gold terror claw bear shook the sky, and its dark golden hair flickered brightly. The silver-winged breaking void snake fully demonstrates the ferocity and calmness of snake-like soul beasts, without any signs. It flexibly twists its body shape, and its silver crystal snake tail, like a slender spear tip, suddenly stabs forward. A pitch-black space crack emerged, and the snake's tail directly crossed the void, spanning a distance of 100 meters, piercing the left chest of the dark gold terror claw bear. The dark golden light emanating from the body of the dark gold claw bear instinctively emitted a strong radiance. Under the impact of this dark golden light, the silver light that flickered from the tail of the silver wing-breaking void snake became much dimmer, but it still broke through the strong defense of the dark gold terror claw bear, leaving a terrifying bloodstain on its left chest. The intense pain came, and the dark gold terror claw bear was momentarily stunned. Then, his dark golden pupils were instantly infected with bloodthirsty blood red, and in a frenzied and angry roar, he suddenly lifted his dark gold terror claw. The dark gold claw bear clan is born with terrifying attack and defense abilities, and it is unknown how many years it has not suffered such a degree of trauma. At this point, it has been completely angered. The dark gold claw bear lifted its huge dark gold claw high and quickly swung it downwards, as if making a move to tear apart the sky. A total of 10 dark golden light blades emerged from the sky, falling towards the silver-winged breaking void snake's head. But the silver-winged broken void snake is fearless, and its black pupils reveal a few strands of anthropomorphic arrogance and disdain. Just opened his huge mouth, revealing a row of sharp teeth like daggers. Immediately afterwards, a dense, almost substantial silver glow began to condense in front of it. However, the violent spatial fluctuations only lasted for a moment before stopping, replaced by a deep, oppressive black sphere. This is not an energy body, but the silver-winged breaking void snake has created an absolute vacuum through its amazing control over spatial attributes. There is no substance or energy here, even light will be swallowed up invisibly. This is the most powerful innate soul skill of the silver wing-breaking void snake, the vacuum bullet. Just close to this black vacuum area, those 10 dark golden claws all have a tendency to collapse and disintegrate. Ji Hongyu decisively took out the soul guide communicator and issued instructions to the staff of the primary spiritual platform monitoring the transmission tower. Immediately restrain the silver winged breaking snake and prevent them from colliding here. Yes, Tower Master. The staff of the spiritual pagoda neatly controlled the silver wing breaking void snake. The silver wing breaking void snake was transported through a special connection between the East China Sea Spiritual Tower ascending platform and the Spiritual Tower headquarters ascending platform, and they were well prepared from the beginning. The body of the silver wing breaking void snake disappeared without warning from the primary spiritual platform, and the black absolute vacuum it created was no exception. And the dark gold claw bear's dark gold claw fell into the void. Although everyone did not see the final collision result between the silver wing breaking void snake and the dark gold terror claw bear, those with discerning eyes knew that the silver wing breaking void snake almost completely suppressed the dark gold terror claw bear, whose cultivation level was almost the same as it. After finishing these, Ji Hongyu slowly turned around and looked at Yuzhen and Nanyuan. Before Yuzhen could say anything, Nanyuan nodded with a firm expression. Grandpa Ji, I have chosen this silver-winged snake to become my soul. I made it to the new book list and surged to the top. Bring some recommended tickets and monthly tickets for the big fire. It's okay to make an investment. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Heavenly Lock Shuttling Through the Void, hoping to tightly bind the gods with it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Heavenly Lock Shuttling Through the Void, hoping to tightly bind the gods with it. Yuzhen has never been the kind of person who is pedantic and stubborn. When he heard that Nanyuan wanted to merge this silver-winged snake into his soul, he did not immediately step forward to deny it due to his worries, but calmly pondered some things. Ji Hongyu will definitely not harm Nanyuan. Since he is willing to use internal channels to teleport the indomitable spirit of the silver wing breaking void snake from the headquarters of the transmission tower, it indicates that he has great confidence in successfully integrating Nanyuan and this silver wing breaking void snake. Lao Ji, how much do you have in mind? After pondering for a moment, Yuzhen suddenly spoke up to Ji Hongyu and asked. Ji Hongyu said solemnly, no matter how high the quality of the soul is, its own cultivation is still there. In fact, with the spiritual power level and physical strength of Nanyuan, it is possible to directly try to integrate the Millennium Soul, but we don't need to let him bear this risk. Lao Yu, as I mentioned earlier, I will personally preside over the soul contract ceremony for Nanyuan. There are two ways to enter into a contract with the soul, one is an equal contract, and the other is a master-servant contract. However, in today's era, an equal contract is almost impossible, and only the master-servant contract can be used. In this way, the most important thing in this process is to make the silver wing break through the void snake yield. The spiritual power level of Nanyuan has reached the middle level of the spiritual realm, and its spiritual power is far stronger than that of souls at the same level of cultivation. It happens to have an advantage in this area, which is enough to withstand the counterattack of the silver wing breaking void snake's intention. Then it is to suppress it in terms of attributes. I have carefully felt that the spatial attribute of Nanyuan's mutated martial soul void chain should be stronger than that of the silver wing breaking void snake. He has endured the pain of the spiritual sea rupture, and Nanyuan definitely has no problem in terms of willpower. In addition, with my assistance from the side, at least he can protect his safety. It can be said that only Nanyuan can try this method. Of course, as you know, Lao Yu, the risk cannot be 100% zero. Yuzhen's furrowed brow slowly relaxed and he looked sideways at Nanyuan beside him. Grandpa, if I missed this soul, I might regret it for life. Nanyuan still had no hesitation. He has never been willing to be ordinary, and he naturally does not want to let go of the silver wing breaking void snake, the top-level soul that can suppress the dark gold terror claw bear. Moreover, the source of the silver wing breaking void snake's bloodline is the Ectopia, which is one of the few special souls that will not be suppressed by the dragon god's aura. After a moment of silence, Yuzhen smiled and nodded, saying, "Okay, Nanyuan, Grandpa believes you will definitely succeed." The higher the position of a person, the more they have a broad perspective and are less indecisive. Simply weighing the pros and cons, Yuzhen nodded in agreement. Ji Hongyu was not surprised by this result. While guiding Nanyuan to a platform in the center of the room, he turned his back to Yuzhen and said, "By the way, old Yu, the price of the indomitable spirit of the silver wing breaking void snake is 50 million federal coins." 50 million federal coins. Lao Ji, you're not mistaken, are you? The smile on Yuzhen's face disappeared instantly, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. He pushed his hand and helped the glasses on the bridge of his nose. If he hadn't known Ji Hongyu since childhood, he would have thought that Ji Hongyu was deliberately deceiving him. The price of a regular 10-year soul is usually 70,000 federal coins, while a centenary soul is worth 1 million federal coins. The higher the cultivation and quality, the more expensive it is, and so on. Those priced at tens of millions of federal coins are all high-level spirits above the millennium level. And the price of 50 million federal coins is even enough to buy those souls that have been cultivated for nearly 10,000 years for 8 or 9,000 years. The silver wing breaking snake does have extraordinary potential, but normally it should not be worth this price. If some of the innate abilities of the silver wing breaking void snake can be explored, it can be used to improve and enhance the system of the ascending spirit tower. This silver wing breaking void snake is more of a research tool for our spirit tower, which has set the price of 50 million federal coins. Ji Hongyu looked business-oriented. It is precisely because of the high price and strict fusion conditions of the silver-winged broken void snake that it has been preserved by the spiritual pagoda from ancient times to the present day. Alright, Lao Ji, you can have someone go pay the bill later. Upon hearing Ji Hongyu's words, Yuzhen readily placed a special black card on the table in front of him, and his whole body relaxed a lot. Although 50 million federal coins are a considerable amount, they are actually nothing to him, the dean of Donghai College. Moreover, Ji Hongyu's remarks at this time precisely demonstrate his ease of handling. The last bit of worry in Yuzhen's heart has completely dissipated. The two have known each other for decades, and these tacit understandings still exist. Nanyuan stood in the center of the circular platform according to Ji Hongyu's instructions, just like the hall on the first floor of the previous transmission tower. The circular platform was also imprinted with some obscure and complex magic formations. He keenly noticed a clear difference in the patterns of those two arrays. It is obvious that the array in the first floor hall of the spiritual tower is used to assist awakening, while the array on this circular platform is used to assist in merging with souls. Surrounding this platform are various advanced equipment. Ji Hongyu stood in front of Nanyuan, and Yuzhen followed him to the edge of the platform. Let's start, Grandpa Ji. I'm ready now. Nanyuan's eyes were firm, and his face was filled with a smile that didn't match his age. However, those perfect and luxurious golden pupils gave people a pure and natural feeling. Ji Hongyu smiled and glanced at Nanyuan, then let out a deep chant. This is the soul fusion contract method left by the former spirit ice Douluo, which can only be controlled by a few soul masters who are skilled in spiritual power. Circles of golden halos were released from the array at the foot of Nanyuan, and soft fluctuations of light elements began to fill the entire room. By chanting spells, Ji Hongyu surprisingly utilized a light attribute ability that was completely opposite to his own martial soul attribute. The dazzling golden light engulfed the two figures, surrounded by a golden expanse, as if they had arrived at an independent and open space. With a flash of silver light, a sudden light and shadow appeared in front of Nanyuan. It was the shrunken version of the silver-winged broken virtual snake, its black pupils filled with cold radiance. However, Nanyuan fell into a wonderful state, where all the emotions contained in his eyes disappeared, leaving only a indifference without sadness or joy. Shuttle through the sky's lock, hoping to tightly bind the gods with it. As Nanyuan slowly lifted his right hand, countless ethereal chains engraved with divine silver patterns instantly filled the space. The dazzling silver light on the chains completely suppressed the silver light on the surface of the silver-winged snake, as if a formless pressure swept over it. The silver-winged snake struggled frantically, with fear breeding in its pupils. This kind of oppression seems to be imprinted in the blood and soul, passed down from generation to generation. That was the fatal threat they felt when the silver-winged void snake clan first descended on the Douluo plain, stemming from the Douluo plain's instinctive rejection of extraterrestrial creatures. In the perspectives of Yuzhen and Ji Hongyu, the body of the silver-wing breaking void snake became uncontrollably unreal and then integrated into Nanyuan's body. The most difficult stage has been passed, and the next step is the seamless integration. Yuzhen and Ji Hongyu looked at each other with eyes fixed on each other. They had never imagined that the fusion between Nanyuan and the silver-wing breaking void snake would be so smooth. Maid, I can't help but send it in advance. I said I wrote about the genius flow, give the rat some confidence. Quickly hand in the recommended monthly ticket. Quick investment collection. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Ming and Yali. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Ming and Yali. This is a vast and clear lake, with the color of the lake water appearing deep blue like the seawater, but possessing a special vitality. The golden sunlight poured down and shimmered brilliantly on the lake's surface. In the center of the lake, there is a small island suspended. Due to the abundant vegetation on the island and the unknown number of years it has grown, it is difficult to see its internal conditions. And the more densely vegetated and lush the place is, the more intense the lingering breath of life becomes. At this moment, a golden light and shadow enveloping the entire island suddenly flickered, as if a towering ancient tree was spreading its branches and leaves. The people living on the small island have become accustomed to this and have not paid much attention to it. But what everyone didn't know was that a thought residing within the golden tree quietly spread into an illusory space, transforming into a soft and ethereal female voice that seemed to soothe the deep wounds in people's hearts. How do you feel it? After a long silence, a deep and extremely majestic male voice rang out in this illusory space. This is the final counterattack of the Douluo plains will, stubborn and unyielding. There is indeed a way to take death. However, this also means that I will soon be able to completely refine it and truly become the master of the Douluo plain. Finally, I can complete the task entrusted to me by the third party. I may need to sleep for a while now. You need to constantly monitor the movements of the abyss plane and not let the third party's long-term plan be destroyed in a moment. And during the exchange of these two thoughts, a young man in a quiet valley on the island looked towards the distant east with a feeling. The young man has a handsome appearance, a refined and introverted temperament, and looks just 27 or 8 years old. I couldn't feel any strong aura from him, just like an ordinary person. But he is undoubtedly the first person on the entire continent, standing at the peak of the human soul master, Qingtian Douluo Yunming, a stunningly talented generation. He is also the contemporary owner of the Sea God Pavilion at Shrek College. Not far in front of him, there were 2 vines falling from the cliff, and there was a wooden board on the vines that looked like a swing. A stunning woman wearing a water-green long dress sat on the swing, her fair and delicate jade hands gripping the vines on both sides, swaying slightly. Her captivating and exquisite beauty is pure, elegant, and full of vitality, like a goddess of nature, making people unable to help but feel close. Her dark green long hair, scattered behind her, rippled up, complemented by her smiling expression, creating a beautiful and picturesque scene. And she is the wife of Qingtian Douluo Yunming, the Holy Spirit Douluo Yali. Noticing Yunming's abnormality, Yali smiled and asked softly, "What's wrong, Brother Ming?" Upon hearing Yali's voice, Ming withdrew his gaze and gave a gentle smile. It's nothing, just a faint sense of a possible breakthrough opportunity from the eastern seaside. However, this feeling quickly disappeared again, perhaps it was just my illusion. Decades ago, Ming realized that he could never truly reach that point in his entire life. The most he could do was to leave some experience for future generations. Now his mentality has calmed down and he only wants to be with Yali for the rest of his life. Ming's tone was indifferent, but Yali knew that with Ming's cultivation, perception could never be wrong. The arrival of this opportunity can be said to be unexpected, but how could she hope that Ming would willingly give up? Yali stood up and approached, holding on to one of Ming's arms with attachment. She smiled sweetly and said, "Go ahead, Brother Ming. I haven't been to the beach for a long time, so let's take it as if you're going out with me to relax." "Okay." Ming glanced sideways at Yali, then nodded with a smirk in his heart. The two of them had a deep affection in their eyes, everything was in silence. At the same time, the East China Sea Spirit Pagoda. Nanyuan closed his eyes and sat cross-legged in the center of the platform, silently entering a state of meditation. The silver chains of the void lingered around his body, constantly shuttling through space and rhythmically moving. In ancient times, if a soul master's own martial soul was too weak, absorbing soul rings could have a certain degree of transformation or evolution of their own martial soul. Blue-silver grass is a typical example. If a soul master possesses a powerful martial soul, the process of absorbing soul rings will be based on their own martial soul origin, with clear priorities. The limitation that blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family soul masters can only attach sub-dragon soul beast soul rings is for this reason. The same applies to the fusion of souls. After all, at its core, soul masters still need to absorb the energy of soul rings to complete their advancement. Undoubtedly, the situation of Nanyuan is the latter. His martial soul quality is too high, even the top-level soul like Silver Wing Breaking Void Snake, which surpasses the Dark Gold Terror Claw Bear, cannot leave a mark on his martial soul. Just as his soul power gradually sublimated, the silver light flickering on the void chain and the accompanying spatial attribute fluctuations became even stronger. The chain also became slightly thicker in rhythm. Quickly, Nanyuan broke through that thin bottleneck, and his soul power surged out, completing the advancement. The soul power condensed within the dantian instantly turned into countless threads, penetrating into all four limbs and bones, and a warm sensation suddenly spread throughout the body. A bright yellow soul ring rose from under him, and he felt indescribably comfortable. His whole body was incredibly light and comfortable. However, at this time, the soul power fluctuations inside Nanyuan's body were still steadily increasing. Similarly, as a century-old soul, the quality of soul also varies greatly. Although the Silver Wing Breaking Void Snake has only attached a soul ring to him for 500 years, the overall energy contained in the soul ring is comparable to that of a 1,000-year soul ring. Once the bottleneck of the soul master is broken through, all of these have also been revealed. I don't know how long it has been, but Nanyuan finally opened his golden eyes with a lively expression. Nurtured by the energy of the soul ring, his height seemed to have increased significantly. He stood up and slightly revitalized his body, and his bones suddenly made a crackling sound. Carefully feeling the new abilities acquired by his advanced soul master, his mouth curved slightly. The clenching of fists, this feeling of controlling power, is truly captivating. Strength is the source of all confidence. Nanyuan slowly lifted his head and saw his specific soul power level from the instruments around the platform. 13 levels. The silver-winged broken snake once again brought him an unexpected joy. On the basis of breaking through the bottleneck, his soul power unexpectedly increased by 2 consecutive levels. Yushin joked to Ji Hongyu beside him with a smile, Lao Ji, I don't think you're deliberately deceiving me anymore. These 50 million federal coins are really worth it. Lao Yu, I said the price of 50 million federal coins is just business. Rao, with Ji Hongyu's calm temperament, couldn't help but roll his eyes. How could he not hear Yuzhen's pride? When he was young, his cultivation and talent were both stable and overwhelming, but his descendants have been declining from generation to generation. On the other hand, in the lineage of Yuzhen, there have emerged arrogant figures like Yuheng and Nanyuan, so it's not worth showing off in front of them. Nanyuan smiled but remained silent, not intervening in the conversation between the two elders. After the two of them looked over, he finally expressed his intention. Grandpa Ji, I want to go to the Junior Spirit Ascension platform to test my martial soul abilities. Okay, let Grandpa Ji arrange it for you. I didn't hesitate much this time, and with a gentle smile on my face, I placed my hand on Nanyuan's shoulder. Ji Hongyu looked at his old friend's proud expression, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt depressed. You old thing really knows how to manipulate people. After holding it for a while, Ji Hongyu only said this sentence. When he was young, he often had a conversation with Yuzhen, but in front of the dark-bellied Yuzhen, he always ate his share. Later on, the two of them never blushed again. On the one hand, they became much more stable with age, and on the other hand, it was also because Ji Hongyu didn't want to find himself boring anymore. Although he said so, Ji Hongyu still took out the soul guide communicator and had his subordinates prepare it. He was also very curious about the soul skill that Silver Wing breaking the void snake attached to Nanyuan. Bring a fast and monthly ticket, end of this chapter.